Shalom. Hello again. Well, this is the first of 3 more programs we've prepared on the Dead Sea Scrolls. And these are to follow our National Primetime Special, which I hope you saw recently. And as news comes out, as these new scrolls are translated, now that we've got them, we'll continue making these programs, continue publicizing everything we can find out. We're going to do the opposite of what the scholars who have hidden the scrolls for these 40 years have done. We're going to tell you instantly and immediately everything that's translated as fast as we can. Our purpose is the opposite. We want to save souls. On this program, we'll have the author from England, Michael Baigent, who's written very interestingly about the scrolls, and the key translators and interpreters who've helped us before, Professors Robert Eisenman and James Tabor. They'll be on location with our friend Bill Dackman, who does some interviewing for us in the Holy Land. And so now, immediately to Qumran by the Dead Sea.
Oh, well, we've done surveys all the way down here, and one of the things we're looking for is to get a demographic survey done here, because we think that this wasn't an isolated desert community. We think this was part of a well-defined population, albeit sparse, but population pattern all the way down the coast to En-Gedi and beyond. And so we're looking for remains of water control, pottery in the caves, so on and so forth. Because what we're dealing with, the site, the problem is there's a psychological reality has been built up about the site. A legend has developed about this site, which in many cases has obscured the actual history of the site. And the real history of this site is far more interesting, far more important than the legend of this site. And so what we're trying to do, for so long, the legend of this site has been maintained by a small group of people. What we're trying to do is expand the parameters to find more facts so that the legend can go to legend and we deal with facts. And for a Christian audience, it's very interesting because our conclusion is that basically whatever Christianity developed out of, the Messianic Judaism that Christianity developed out of, was the same community that produced the scrolls.
Essentially, we have the facts and the theories. The facts are that in these 11 caves behind us and to the north were found up to 1,200 scrolls. Now some are in fragments, but 1,200 books, let's say, scattered about. And also behind us is some kind of a community that's been excavated, complex. Do the two go together? Those are the facts. And the theories would be everything from their Essenes to their Zealots. These are ancient Jewish groups. Some people even suggested they're, quote, Christians, unquote. I think if you connect the excavation site to the scrolls, you certainly would say that they were this wilderness Messianic movement. That is, they're waiting for the Jewish Messiah. They're out in the wilderness trying to be pure, to withdraw from the corruption of the culture, the Greco-Roman culture with the Romans and Jerusalem being defiled by a corrupt priesthood. Everybody out here agreed on one thing: we hate the religious establishment up the hill.
We have, for instance, a very law-oriented group here. We have a very militant, aggressive group here. We have a very nationalistic group here. We have a very xenophobic group here. That is, they don't like foreigners. In Christianity that we normally think about, we think of a cosmopolitan, non-law, Gentile-oriented Christianity. So the kind of group we have here is quite different than what we normally think. We also have an anti-Pharisee group here of extreme proportions, and probably an anti-rabbinic group, the successors to the Pharisees. And that is another thing that's somewhat gummed up the works, because really this is a third way. This is not the rabbinic Jewish way. This is not the Pauline Christian way. This is more of an apocalyptic, even evangelical, if you like, more of an apocalyptic zealot way.
This group believed that prophecy, biblical prophecy, is being fulfilled before their eyes. So they would open their holy books and then look out and say, yeah, this is what the prophet speaks of right here. And so they would write almost as something would happen. Like the text that got so much attention in November, the Wounded Messiah text. That could very well be a reaction to one of the leaders who got killed. In that sense, they would be writing it on the spot.
Do you see some of the stuff written in the scrolls related to Jesus?
Very much so. but I think he broke with this community. I don't know that he was ever a part of it, but I think he would have not agreed with it on what we call halakhic matters. Those who know Judaism know that word, but it means matters of Jewish law. I would put it like this: Jesus seems to share all the major ideas of the group, such as they talk about a new covenant. In fact, I think a good name for these people, rather than Essenes, is the Wilderness New Covenanters, but it's too hard to say. They talk about a new covenant. They have baptisms, or mikvahs. They have dippings, water dippings. They believe that they're out in the wilderness waiting for the Messiah. They have a community of 12, a council of 12, and then an inner group of 3. And if you recall in the Gospels, Jesus chooses 12, and then Peter, James, and John are the inner group of 3, you know, that he quite often goes off alone with. They have sacred meals. They denounce the religious establishment and so forth. I listed out one time 24 parallels like that, where the ideas are just, they talk about the Holy Spirit, we are the people of the last days, and so forth. But then when you look at their practices, these people would not talk to Gentiles. I don't think they would even have given them the time of day. Jesus, according to the Gospels, encounters Gentiles and actually deals with them. The Roman, centurion, the Samaritan woman. If you remember the story of the Samaritan woman, the disciples come up and say, "You're talking with her?" They're shocked that he would be talking with not only a Gentile, but a woman. So these people would, I think, have denounced him for that. And yet their basic ideas of be pure, prepare the way of the Lord in the wilderness, the new covenant is coming, the Messiah is coming. They're very big and very strong in talking about the chosen ones. We are the elect, the chosen ones. I think this is the birth of the movement out here, not in the city. Jesus is from Galilee. He's rural. I think he's wilderness-oriented. And people don't notice in the Gospels, he goes out to the wilderness. Most people would say, if you ask, when did Jesus go out here? And they'd say, well, the temptation. And he went back and lived like a city boy. That's not the case. The last winter of his life, which I think was maybe 29, the year 29, he's in Jerusalem for Hanukkah. It's winter. And according to the Gospel of John, the Pharisees and the religious establishment got together, and they were going to have Jesus stoned for blasphemy. And this is 6 months before they finally got him. And it says, and this is I think it's in John 11 or so, that he retreated into the wilderness where John had been baptizing, up on the Jordan. So he came out here. And it says, and those who wish came to him. Now I interpret this that he's living in a cave somewhere out here, and he stays all winter. I mean, this is a new image of Jesus, living in a cave, hiding out. Why is he hiding out? Because they're going to kill him. But he doesn't run home to Nazareth. He comes out here. And, you can't prove these things, but what did he do from age 12 to age 29? He didn't study in Jerusalem with the rabbis like Paul did. I think we could say that. Or they would have known him and he would be mentioned as a student of Gamaliel or something. I think he must have been out here with John. I don't know all the time, but must have spent time out here studying the scriptures and thinking about what he felt he had to do. So he comes back. And then it becomes very imaginative. Where would you go? Well, you'd go where it's safe. And you look up and you see hundreds and hundreds of caves. And then it says, and as I said, those who wanted came to him. So the movement has a kind of espionage character to it. In other words, certain people of the group knew where he was. They would come and deal, and I picture him almost like Bar Kokhba, but it's not a military mission, it's a spiritual mission, sending out emissaries from his cave, directing various followers. Well, we need to get ready for this and that, and here's the plan. And that's the side that we don't think about till you come here. It makes it much more vivid. I mean, all historians imagine things, but, we have the Dead Sea behind us, the head of the Jordan water. to say that Jesus didn't know about this community, I think, is to say that somehow he would be, what, either blind or mentally incompetent. Of course he knew about it. Now, did he come and eat and have friendly relations with them? Possibly growing up, I think so. You know, Luke says that John the Baptist, his cousin, was Ba Mitbar in the wilderness until his revealing, when he was probably also about 29 years old, 27, 28, 29, in the wilderness. Well, where do you live out here, you see? So I think John the Baptist must have spent much time here. Maybe Jesus would come and visit and then begin arguing with them. Well, I don't know, you know, you people say that we should not even talk to Gentiles, and yet the message needs to reach the whole world. I suspect they would say, well, wait till the Messiah comes and it will. And he might say something like, maybe it's time. You know, this is what I imagine. But I think he was here, for sure.
Do you see any parallels that relate to these days today?
The biggest parallel would be that there are Jews, once again, who are Messianic, and I mean that in the most general sense. That is, who are talking about when is the Messiah coming. Now, this could be everything from Jewish Hasid groups like Lubavitch, who are talking all the time now about this is the time of the Messiah, he's coming. In fact, they thought he was going to come, you know, this year. So we're definitely in what I call apocalyptic Messianic times. Also, for the first time, really, we have large numbers of Jews trying to reclaim Jesus as a Jew. That hasn't happened before. See, when the Jews are scattered in Europe and Christians come to them with crosses in their face and say, we're getting ready to kill you in the name of this, you're not going to get a lot of converts to that religion. But now we're in a time where when you're in the land and it's safe, relatively safe, people can think again, you see. And they can say, we're here and we're regathered. And I think scholars have already done this. Most people don't know, but most scholars would say, where does Jesus belong? He belongs within Judaism. He's a great Jewish teacher, sage, prophet. This is where he belongs. You know, when you historically plot someone, he's not a Greek, he's not a Roman, he's a Jew. And Jews are hesitant. As you know, the Orthodox won't even say his name without a slight curse to it. But that's who they're cursing, though, I don't think is Yeshua, the true Yeshua, the historical Yeshua. They're cursing an imagined horrible person that really was not Jesus at all, but the God of the pagan Christian church. So, in a way, let them curse him if they could also understand. And I'm still speaking historically. I mean, I think even a historian, truth is truth, and he belongs here with his people. I think he ought to come home too. And the scrolls and everything, I believe that. Now, that goes beyond, you know, is he the Messiah? Is he the Son of God? These are theological questions that can be discussed. But the first thing is to de-paganize him, get him back in the land, show that he was a Jew. And he is the most influential man in world history.
Well, what impact have the wilderness people had on Christianity and Judaism today? We'll find out coming up after this. The land of Israel, Israel my love, is like no other land in the world. We're bound for the promised land. We're going back to Israel. And the people who have joined us on past tours say it's an experience they will treasure for the rest of their days.
I think every Christian needs to come here and just sense the same things that I guess all of them that have felt going before us, because we've heard it said that your whole life will be changed if you come to the Holy Land and you can relate more to where Jesus was in the temple and all the great and mighty things that he did.
This is my second tour with Zola. The first one was in June of 1984, and it was a beautiful tour. It was so lovely, and I love Israel so much I had to come back and see it again and live it again.
Come with us to Israel and walk where Jesus walked. Let us break bread together in Jerusalem.
What do you think happened to the people here?
What we think happened is when the war broke out, the Jewish war with the Romans in the year 66, that everybody had to decide what they're going to do. It's like Israelis today, you know, which side are you on in terms of, you know, the political questions and so on? Well, they had their political questions sharply divided. There were Roman collaborators, there were Roman resistors, but the religious communities had to take a stand. There's a war going on, people are dying. The Romans are systematically, they're going to come down this road, whatever road there was, everybody's wanting to go to Masada, down south. It's the big fortress. If you hold that, you can help hold out for the whole. So I think what happened in terms of the archaeological evidence is the Romans got this place and wiped it out, killed everybody.
In your opinion concerning these scrolls, what's at stake here for Christianity and Judaism?
We have a theory, and we've had it from the beginning, and what we're seeing confirms our theory more and more rather than makes us doubt it. That is, we feel that this movement, the movement we have here, is really the better name for it than Essene or even Zealot is the Messianic movement in Palestine. We've said that this literature is tremendously Messianic. At the beginning we were seeing documents having to do with two messiahs, but we were also seeing documents having to do with a single Judeo-Christian style Davidic Messiah too. And in the unpublished materials we're even seeing more of this kind of material relating to a kind of normative Judeo-Christian Davidic style single Messiah. And if you read your Josephus, the historian of this period who wrote the Jewish war carefully, you'll see that Josephus says in one passage of his book about the war against Rome that the thing that most moved the Jewish people to revolt against Rome was the prophecy that a world ruler would come out of Palestine. That tells us that they were moved by the Messianic prophecy, and that the revolution against Rome that we often think of political was in fact not simply political but religious and Messianic. We think we have here the literature of the movement. We don't say it began in the 1st century. It leads up from the Maccabean period in the 2nd century BC on up through the Herodian period into the 1st century. We think we have here the literature of the Messianic movement.
I think there's a lot at stake. What's at stake is the Jews are going to have to learn, and will learn, I think, from more finds, that Messianic Judaism is a acceptable form of Jewish faith, because here it is here. Now, I'm using Messianic Judaism in the general term, Jews who believe in a Messiah, that many Jews have, you know, they think someone's the Messiah and so forth, and that is not leaving the Jewish faith to believe somebody's the Messiah. And so Jews will come to know a wider view of Judaism than just the rabbinic view, which is one stream of Judaism, but there are many streams of Judaism. And this stream of Judaism is quite an important one. And I think the Christians in the West will learn from this that the real roots of their faith are out here in this desert with these people who are very serious about the Word of God and the promises of God and the prophecies and so on. And we're not interested at all in Greco-Roman philosophy and secular culture. I think the Christians will see, as more connections are made, that this is actually the birthplace of Christianity. Not just the land of Israel, but a Messianic desert group of Jews who are waiting for the Messiah to come.
Messiah, Messiah, could he be Messiah, the one whom the prophets foretold? The love that he teaches, the message he preaches, is it he in the scriptures of old?
I know there's a lot of information that's kind of new and kind of different in this kind of program, but boy, I myself watched the footage we got from location, and there were a couple of quotations just so tempting. Professor Eisenman saying, "We think we have here the literature of the Messianic movement," and the idea of them writing about two messiahs leading to a Davidic single Messiah in the long run. You know, the problems of waiting for the Messiah have always dogged the Jews. They wait and eventually forsake, or they choose someone else. Or, gosh, the scene in Fiddler on the Roof where they come to the rabbi when they've been banished from the town in Russia or wherever it was, and they say, "Wouldn't this be a good time for Messiah to come, Rabbi? We've waited so long." And he says, "We'll have to wait somewhere else. Let's start packing." And it just, there's not a message of assurance in it. The Lubavitch rabbis at this point choosing Rabbi Schneerson, a 90-year-old man in Brooklyn, to be the Messiah. It's in desperation. Waited so long, choosing someone that's biblically impossible. Bar Kokhba in the 2nd century, 580,000 Jewish people were killed trying to revolt against Rome following Simon Bar Kokhba, a false Messiah, because they thought the Messiah was invincible. He wasn't. The Messiah was the problem. Then there comes a strain of non-Messianic Judaism, from the Pharisees to the Rabbinic Judaism, which doesn't hardly mention the Messiah, to the Reform Judaism that doesn't seem like Judaism at all. Just some kind of American religion. The two messiahs, they wanted to satisfy Isaiah's suffering servant and his king, Messiah ben Joseph, Messiah ben David. They finally came to the idea of one Messiah. They're on their way to the idea of two comings, but anyway, the Davidic-style Messiah is embodied in Christ, the son of David. Matthew 1:1, the opening verse of the New Testament, says, HaSefer Yeshua HaMashiach ben David, the book of Jesus Christ, the son of David. Well, Messianic Judaism, the message is valid. I believe that this is valid Judaism. I am a Messianic Jew. From the Lubavitchers to the Jews for Jesus to other kinds of Messianic Judaism, it almost doesn't matter what Messiah, but this is a kind of Judaism. Professor Tabor's quote, "The Jews will have to learn that Messianic Judaism is an acceptable form of Jewish faith because here it is," he said, out there in Qumran, in the wilderness. "This is not leaving the Jewish faith. A wider view of Judaism than just the rabbinic view is possible. There are many streams of Judaism." And at the same time, he pointed out that the Christians will have to learn the real roots of their faith are out here in this desert. Those were his words. This is actually the birthplace of Christianity. Indeed, the Christians are missing the Israeli part of their faith, the real roots. They even come around to opposing Israel today. It's unbelievable. I saw an issue of Christianity Today magazine, the first issue or second issue in March. I was amazed. It says on the cover of this magazine, Israel right or wrong, with a question mark, and then there's an obnoxious anti-Semitic article inside questioning whether Israel fulfills prophecy and so on because it's politically incorrect and this sort of thing. This magazine is not called Politics Today or Anti-Semitism Today. It's called Christianity Today. Absurd. Criticize one's own roots. In effect, criticize the parents who have adopted you into the family. I've never seen such a thing in my whole Christian career. A talk show followed in Dallas that I heard, and our ministry is really going to take some issue with what I think of as Christian anti-Semitism, an insane thing that could never have been predicted. The olive tree in the Garden of Gethsemane shows Paul's analogy, the new trunk grafted into the old Jewish roots. That is correct Christianity. Rome and Greece are pagan, not the real roots of Christianity at all. Look, it's a complex topic. I wish you'd read up on it or get these programs and review what these eminent scholars have said. Our offer tonight is all 7 programs in the video series. In other words, back to the beginning, the first Dead Sea Scrolls shows. We made 3 last November and December when the new translations broke out, and we covered them as thoroughly as we could with expert commentators. Then we made the national special in May. It showed coast to coast in prime time, an enormous amount of viewership and response and so on. And now 3 more programs to wrap up what we have right to date, and these 7 we're putting in Secrets of the Scrolls video series. So you can order the 7 programs for $69. You can write us or call the phone number on your screen with the credit card. And also, we're having written form the Secrets of the Scrolls report. Just ask for the report. It's $9, and it's a transcript of some of the program material plus an introduction that I wrote to clarify the topic. And remember, we also accept gifts. You don't always have to order something. Call in with a credit card. Help us to make these programs. We have to go out there, if necessary, to Qumran, to the University of Chicago, to wherever translations are being done and news is available, to bring these things out. And this is, to me, I'm sorry, the most important development of Christianity in the 20th century, other than the restoration of Israel itself. So if you would, help us, and as you do so, Sha'alu, Shalom Yerushalayim, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.